Okay, now before we begin, I want to give you a quick note. If you're using Autodesk 3ds Max 2012, you want to go ahead and install the Service Pack 1 because we're going to be mirroring objects in our scene. And without the Service Pack, mirroring objects tends to create some problems with the polygon normals. It may look like the topology or the wireframe is all jumbled up, and it may appear like things are inside out. So if you download that service pack and install it, it will fix those problems. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into our lesson here. First thing that I want to do is I want to select my line, and I want to actually change this color because it's a little tough to see. So I'm just going to click on my swatch here, and I'm going to use this orange color. I did a custom color here, so if you want to change it to something bright like this, just hit Add Custom Colors and choose that from there. And we're just going to hit OK. Now, what I want to show you is I want to go to my perspective view, and we're going to orbit around this object holding down the Alt key and the middle mouse button. And you'll notice that our frame cage is very, very flat. We have zero depth to this. Now what we're going to do is select the vertices on these two lines in the middle and pull them out in our Y direction to give this a little bit of depth. So let's go ahead and go to our front view, and we're going to go to vertex mode, and I'm just going to do a marquee selection around these vertices. Now it's really important that we're holding down Control so we can select multiples, and we also want to keep doing these marquee selections around these vertices because we never know if there's more than one on top of one another. Okay? Alright, so let's go ahead and go to our perspective again. And I'm just going to rotate around this or orbit around this and pull this back or forward in the Y direction. So now we're starting to see a little bit of depth with our bike frame. Okay? Now it's still a 2D object. We still haven't applied that surface modifier just yet. Now one thing that I do want to do is I want to make sure that I have a flat gap right here in the front part of our frame that goes down the center. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my front view, and I'm going to select just this bottom line here, all the vertices in this bottom line. So I'm just holding down Control and doing a marquee selection around these vertices. And I'm going to switch back to my perspective view. And I'm just going to pull this over in the Y just a little bit, not a whole lot, to where it completely flattens out our frame on the side. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and mirror this object because I want the other side of my line here, or of my frame. So with this selected, we're going to go to Mirror, and let me go ahead and move this over to the side so we can see what's going on here. And the first thing that we need to worry about is the mirror axis. Now you'll notice that it's just taken my frame and flipped it the other way. So let's hit Y, and it looks like we're actually getting the other side of our frame, but we're missing the other side that we just had. Now what we need to do is go ahead and hit Copy under our clone selection, and now we have both sides of our frame. So let's go ahead and hit OK on this, and we've got both sides of our frame, but we still have two separate objects here. Now what I want to do is actually attach both of these together, and you can see in your rollout under the geometry rollout we have this attach function. So if we activate that and we select the other side of our frame, you'll now notice that we have this bounding box that is surrounding the entire object. So let's go ahead and turn off attach. And the next thing that you want to do, anytime that you attach an object to another, they're not exactly one solid piece just yet. We have some common vertices down the center line here. Let me go to my top view just so we can see this here. And let's go to Vertex. Now if we select around this one vertex on the end, you can choose either end if you like, and we scroll up in our menu, we'll see we have 8 vertices selected here. So how do we have 8 vertices right here? Well, what it's done is it's combined the vertices from the top portion of our bike frame, the one half, and then the second half as well. And what we need to do is actually weld this center line so it's one solid piece. So we're going to do a marquee selection around that center line of vertices. And you'll see we have 24 vertices selected. And we're going to scroll down to our weld function. And here's weld. And we'll just hit that one time. Now if we scroll back up to the top, you'll see it says 19 vertices selected. So we've gotten rid of some there. Alright, so let's go ahead and turn off vertex mode here. And we're going to go to perspective. I'm just going to rotate around this. This looks unchanged so far. Now what I want to do is go ahead and apply our surface modifier so we can see our actual geometry and how this frame is going to look. So let's go to our modifier list. And we're going to scroll down until we see surface. Now once we've applied this, you'll see that we have 3D geometry on our spline cage. So you can see how this is a really powerful tool to create some hard surfaces here. Now we did pull that center line away so we get this gap, and what we want to do is actually cap or bridge these gaps here. Now the way we have to do this is we need to go back to our vertex mode under our line and use our refine and connect these two vertices. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to actually hit this show end result so we can see our surface while we're working under our line here. And I'm going to go to my refine tool. So let me go down, and here's our refine tool, and we want to make sure that we check connect and linear. And then we're going to choose refine. So we're just going to go basically across all of these vertices across this gap. So we'll select this one and this one. And remember, we need to right click to create that line. Now you'll notice that it just has a line. Nothing has actually happened to our geometry. So let's do the same thing here. So let's right click and go to refine connect. We'll select this vertex and then the corresponding one across the way. And we'll right click, and now you can see a surface has been built here. Remember that the surface modifier only works if you have quads and triangles for the polygons. So we've created a 1, 2, 3, 4-sided polygon, or a quad. So let's go ahead and continue by bridging across. So I'm just going to do this one more time here. I'm going to right click, refine connect, and we're going to select these vertices. And then we'll right click, and that'll create that surface. Now I'm just going to pause the video and finish this out, and you go ahead and do the same thing. Okay, so now you can see that I've gone ahead and I've just refined and bridged the vertices here, and now we have the surface that is bridging that gap that we had before. So this is looking pretty sharp here. Now what we want to do is just some fine tuning at this point. You'll notice right here we have this weird pinch going on right here, and I want to round this out a little bit more. And the reason this is doing this is because of our vertex type and our lines. So we'll select this vertex, and we're just going to rotate underneath, and you'll see our handles here. And I'm going to select one of the handles and move it to the left, and you'll see how this is starting to round out this line. So I'm going to make sure that my X and my Y are selected here. And I'm going to move this handle out and up, and just kind of round this out a little bit. So you can see that the shape of our surface is going to be determined by the shape of our spline cage. So if you have any weird pinches and you have some odd curves, you just need to adjust the curvature of your vertices. Okay? Alright, so let's just kind of inspect some different areas. We might have something on the back side here. And we've got a little bit of something, so I'm just going to zoom in on it. Sorry, it's getting a little sporadic there. And we'll move the handles. Just kind of flatten that out a little bit. Just make that look a little nicer. And if you want to go around and really adjust these, you can do that. And I'm just going to show you a couple of more examples here. I'm just going to move this off to the left just to round this out. And do the same thing for this one. Alright, so if you like, you could go ahead and make some other minor adjustments, but I think that we've got the idea of how we can really reshape this bike frame. Okay, so now the last thing I want to touch on really quickly is the surface modifier, and if you're not happy with the smoothness of your surface, you can actually take the patch topology steps up a little bit higher, and you'll notice that things get a little more creased. Now we don't want to go too high on this because you are actually adding more resolution. You just can't see that topology. So I like to stick around, maybe around 20. So this looks pretty good, and if we want to do a render on this, we'll just do a quick render, and you can see your results. Really nice and smooth, and you can tell that this is a hard surface. Okay, so in the next lesson, what we're going to do is go ahead and create the front forks